definitely been covering the Colts before I was born. He is Mike Chapell covering the Colts for CBS 4 and Fox 59. Chappie, you enjoying the final few quiet days, week from tomorrow, or 2 weeks from tomorrow is report day, now that I think about it.
Yeah, and you have to. I mean, you're busier than I am with your pacer double dip, but you just know that when the season gets going, when training camp gets here, you're busy from, in July until really the end of January, maybe longer if you're lucky. So when you get some slow time, when I was at the local paper early on and young and stupid, I tried to stay busy all the time because I felt like I needed to. And now you need to realize that when you get some downtime, you have to enjoy it because there's not a lot of downtime covering a pro sports beat.
No, and certainly not the NFL. I'm glad that you mentioned the Pacers, because when I was over there yesterday listening to the Malcolm Brogdon and opening press conference, and now Herb Simon got involved in things, it made me think to Jim Irsay's involvement when Josh McDaniels said no and Frank Reich became the favorite. How much of a role do you think Irsay played in that when Josh McDaniels kind of left the Colts at the altar?
Probably decent. And again, how much he had in the original Josh McDaniels thing. I think Jim Irsay, when it comes to that such of a high-level decision, is very involved. I just can't imagine that an owner who puts people in place and let them do their jobs. However, when it comes to hiring a head coach, you have to have the owner's input and sort of his blessing, I just think. So, but when it turns to Frank Reich, I think what people need to remember, if you remember when we talked to Chris Ballard, he revealed, surprisingly to me, that Frank Reich wasn't on the first list. It was the list of 8 or whatever it was.
Yeah, he was low.
He was real low. So, and it just shows you that many times the moves you don't make are the best moves for a franchise. So, I have to believe Jim Irsay had a lot of input, whether it's reaching out to the Bill Polians and getting his, and probably Peyton on their input on Frank Reich, and as we know, all the reaction was super positive. And it's funny how Chris Ballard just beats himself up. I think, how was this guy not one of our top candidates to begin with? So again, it's just crazy how it's worked out. And I've always thought a great book or column or series of columns would be moves that weren't made. How would things have changed? I go back way back. ESPN did a 360 on, or one of those things on, it was a draft of 83 with the Marinos and Elway and all that, and how close the Colts came. They thought they had a deal done to send Elway to Dallas. I mean, they thought they had the thing done. Can you imagine if John Elway goes to Dallas, how the ripple effects would have changed things? And it's just crazy how certain things, go back, if they don't take Peyton Manning when they took him, if Peyton stays in school or whatever, comes out early, and the same with Luck. If you're not in position, the Colts are in position in 2012 to get Andrew Luck with the first pick. The next year, the Chiefs were first in line, and they got a left tackle who wasn't very good.
Or what if Luck would have came out in 2011?
That's what I'm saying. It's all about. And I go back in '98 when they took Manning. The Colts had to lose that '97 finale in Minnesota when Jim Harbaugh got the crap beat out of him. And if they win that game, they're picking 4th or 5th. So it's just incredible how things happen. And for this franchise, it's happened twice. How many franchises go from a Hall of Famer to a player who has Hall of Fame potential at the most important position? Very, very few. I mean, Miami's still looking for the quarterback from Marino. So it's amazing. And I just think that Jim Irsay has to be very, very pleased with how the football gods, how things have lined up since the end of '97, because it's really worked out very well, and there's a beautiful stadium downtown as a result of it.
One more thing on the Irsay Simon front before we move on, chat. Obviously Jim was a GM back, in the 90s, but as an owner, do you recall him ever having a huge role in a specific acquisition move player-wise, whether it was trade or free agency over the last two decades, strictly as an owner?
Well, I think he, and here we are. I don't mean to bash the previous regime. I think Jim Irsay pulled the trigger on Andrew Luck. I think it would have taken. I'm not sure Ryan Grigson could have said no. We want RG3. I just don't think that would have happened. And I do believe Jim had some input with Peyton Manning, although Bill Polian certainly was driving the bus at the time. But beyond that, I know there was one that he ruled out. There was talk of back when Edgerrin was out with a knee injury. What was that, 2001? And there was talk of bringing Lawrence Phillips in.
Oh, boy.
And, I know.
Not a horseshoe guy there.
No. That's the anti-horseshoe guy. And that's one where Jim Irsay said, no, we're not doing that. And rightfully so. So we've always talked how players can have so many transgressions as long as he's a great player. That's one you can't touch, and you couldn't touch, and it wouldn't have worked. So, but by and large, Jim Irsay's power or value as an owner is that he puts people in place and lets them do their jobs. And for the most part, he let Polian do that. And what's crazy, and we've talked in the press room about the Jim Irsay-Chris Ballard tandem, is that you've got an owner that's basically saying, here's my money, spend it. And Chris Ballard says, no, that's okay. We don't want to overpay for this guy, that guy, or whatever. And in years past, if Chris Ballard had the inclination to go out and really spend in free agency, they would have had 4 or 5, since Ballard's been here, 4 or 5 top drawer players, top name players with big price tags. And Chris Ballard has largely resisted the urge because he doesn't want to build the team that way.
Yeah, I think Landon Collins and C.J. Mosley might have been atop that list back in March. Mike Chapell joining us here on the Four Winds Lakeside Inn and Marina Hotline. I'm Kevin Bowen filling in for Dan Dakich on this Tuesday afternoon. Chap, the one bit of news that I thought we might get before the start of training camp, and I guess we still could get it, or maybe before the start of the regular season, is a possible extension for Anthony Costanzo, who is going into a contract year. What would be the hesitancy if you're Chris Ballard of giving him that sort of extension before the start of the season?
Age, I don't know. What's AC, 31?
Yeah, I want to say he'll be 31 in August, something around there.
I guess. But then my argument is why not do it? Because if you don't do it, who's your left tackle in waiting? Dan brought up last week on the show about what areas of concern are most concerned, and I hadn't thought about it, but backup left tackle.
Without a doubt.
You could argue almost every position on the roster, even quarterback, is better suited for that injury than left tackle. Who's your backup left tackle? Or even Clark? I mean,
maybe Joe Haig.
Maybe. But when you start saying maybe, that shows you that you don't have the guy. So the fact that they didn't take any steps during the draft, which I understand it wasn't a good draft for tackles, especially where they were drafting, and there's no one on the roster that you're thinking, hey, in a year or two. So, and again, I think if you get it done, you would make whether it's a 3 or 4 year deal, and here we're throwing money out. I don't know what left tackles are getting now, 11, 12 million. I don't know what it is. But you can do it to where it's heavily this year, next year, and then in 3 years you'll worry about it. So I don't know what the downside is. Maybe they are working on it. Well, we talked to AC, and was it in May? Or maybe it was in June. And he said there hadn't been any contact yet. And these things don't take long to get done. I mean, they could call him tomorrow and throw out numbers that fit what AC wants, and it can get done. I'm not ruling it out, but we haven't heard any rumblings. And I'll tell you one thing that's, I guess, good and bad about Ballard. there are very few whispers or leaks or whatever coming out of that franchise, and that's not always been the case. As you know, with the pull-in years, especially near the end when things weren't going well, and with the next crew, there were always whispers and speculation and all that. There just hasn't been any leaks, if that's the right word. But I think it can still happen. But of course, the longer we get into the summer, and didn't they get AC and Hilton done either at the end of training camp or the first week of the season?
Yeah, 2015.
A few years ago. Right. So I think that could still happen. I just don't know. To me, there's no downside to doing it because you're going to structure it to where he's going to get his really good money in the first couple of years, and then if it doesn't pan out, it makes all the sense in the world to me. But no one's asked other than you and Dan. No one asked my opinion. and I don't see you guys don't count in the.
I was going to say, what does that mean for us, Chap?
I know it. I know it.
I can't wait to see you here in a couple of weeks after hearing that comment.
Here we go.
Chap.
We'll see if that happens, but I think it's just going to be quiet.
He is the dean. You can find his work on CBS 4 and Fox 59. Mike Chapel. Thank you, Chap, for always joining us on Tuesday afternoons.
See you in a couple of weeks.
See you, Chap.